Welcome back to Movies Reloaded. Today we'll be going through a classic horror Korean movie called The Eighth Night. Let's dive right into it. 2,500 years ago, a demon with a black and red eye opens a gate of hell and causes terror on Earth until a Buddha shuts the gate and captures the demon by removing his eyes, therefore rendering the demon powerless. The two eyes escape, but the black eye is captured and sealed in a Sarira casket. Meanwhile, the red eye continues to possess one body after another until it reaches the eighth night, and it realizes it has been on a bridge all this while and can't escape from the Buddha, so it surrenders willingly, hoping that one day it will be freed again to cause havoc to humanity. The Buddha then issues an instruction to his disciples that they should make sure the two eyes never meet again. In October 2005, an archaeologist called Professor Kim discovers the Sarira casket that the red eye was sealed in on the Indian-Pakistan border, but unfortunately his expectations of the world were destroyed when the whole world called his discovery a fake, and he was labeled a fraud by the entire world. In 2019, on the night of the red moon, Professor Kim decides to take his revenge on the whole world. The red moon is the ideal condition for the awakening of the red eye, and Professor Kim decides to use this rare opportunity. When he gets home, he retrieves some blood samples from his refrigerator and pours them into the Sarira casket. He tops it with his own blood and proceeds to say an incantation to awaken the red eye. After waiting for several minutes and discovering that the red eye isn't emerging, he is consumed by bitterness and decides to kill himself until the red eye finally emerges from the casket. A monk named Bante Hajong, guiding the black eye, senses the awakening of the red eye, and he goes to retrieve the black eye. Back in the present day, a man named Jin Soo is seen working at a construction site where his co-workers gossip about his past being a monk. In Buksan, the mountain where the black eye is being guarded by Bante Hejong, his student named Chung Suk, who appears to be under the vow of silence for 2 years, never to speak until his master allows him, looks for his master after preparing his food. Bante Hejong, who is seen coughing out blood on a cloth, quickly hides the cloth when Chung Suk eventually finds him. He takes Chung Suk to the temple where the black eye is being kept captive and explains the mystery of the demon and how the red eye has been revived by a helper during the red moon. He further explains that the red eye needs 7 stepping stones to finally reach the black eye, and if they can remove one of those stones, they will succeed in capturing the red eye. The stepping stones appear to be the owners of the blood samples that Professor Kim used to revive the red eye. How spooky is that? On the first day, the first stepping stone appears to be a hunter. The red eye possesses him. Later that night, Chung Suk wakes up from a nightmare and his master Bante Hejong calms him down and also instructs him to look for Sonhwa, the only monk who he knows can defeat and capture the red eye. Sonhwa appears to be Jin Soo, the construction worker. The following morning, Bante Hejong passed away. Now this seems to be getting interesting. On the second day, a couple can be seen in a hotel called Four Seasons. The wife talks about how she runs a free therapy for dysfunctional people. The possessed hunter enters the hotel and makes his way into the couple's room, where the red stone possesses the next stepping stone, the wife. The following day, a detective named Ho Tae arrives at the murder scene in the Four Seasons Hotel, where he notices that the hunter's body has been decomposed beyond normal while the wife is missing. What baffles them is that the hunter was fine until he came into the hotel, and the next morning, his body decomposed like someone that has been dead for years. After Bante Hejong's death, Chung Suk leaves a note that he will be back before Bante Hejong's cremation rite, so he goes to town to look for Sonhwa. In the train station, his bag where he kept the black eye and some money was stolen. He sees a mysterious lady looking at him before she disappears. At the police station, it is discovered that the lady that went missing from Four Seasons was found dead and decomposed in a toilet. This strange phenomenon raises eyebrows in the precinct. Ho Tae asks the others for their opinions on this case. Dong Jin reveals that he has a friend in the eastern precinct who told him about the existence of a shaman who usually helps him. Chung Suk continues to look for Sonhwa's house, with the address given to him until he eventually finds him and informs him about Bante Hejong's death. Jin Soo feeds Chung Suk. Later that night, in a tunnel, a biker encounters a lady and he identifies her from the free therapy class of the dead wife in the Four Seasons Hotel. Unfortunately, The lady appears to be possessed by the red eye, so the red eye migrates into the biker's body. The biker is then seen in front of the home of a virgin shaman where the mysterious girl who Chung-suk encountered earlier lived. She gives him a blood sample before he eventually leaves. Seonhwa gets a vision of Bante Haejong, who tells them that it is his destiny to ascend souls into the beyond and also defeat the Red Eye. He further explains that the only stepping stone known to them is the virgin shaman, and he should kill her. On the 5th day, Seonhwa and Chung-suk seek out the virgin shaman. On their way, Seonhwa feeds Chung-suk and buys new shoes for him. In the process, Chung-suk breaks his vow of silence by thanking Seonhwa. Meanwhile, Detective Ho-tae and the police discover another dead and decomposed body. It is discovered that all the victims have a dent in their skulls. Later that night, a man exits the residence in the interim, and Seonhwa coerces him into discussing the virgin's address. The man finally speaks up after much coercion, but he forewarns them that they will perish there. However, when Hae-to arrives at the subsequent crime scene, he discovers the crumpled dead body of the hooker and discovers a deep gash in her head. The focus then shifts to the bus, as Chang-so continues to irritate Seonhwa. The elder eventually falls asleep, and the bus continues to go through the night. Meanwhile, we see a young woman leaving the home of the virgin shaman. As she enters, the attractive girl immediately detects the presence of the Sarira casket next to her and all the unfavorable energies. The scene abruptly cuts to the Daegu bus terminal, where Seonhwa is holding a letter from Chang-suk's mother, apologizing to him and requesting that Seonhwa take care of her son as he has a flashback of his deceased wife and child. Seonhwa is hypnotized into believing that he is going to transform into a demon when he chokes Chung-suk's younger self, but he snaps out of it right away. On the 6th day, Chung-suk awakens to find Seonhwa upset. Despite this, they go to a restaurant and have a sumptuous meal. They start out to search the entire neighborhood after Seonhwa draws 2 locations on the map and instructs them to look for every shaman in the region. After much deliberation, Chang-so finds the virgin's home. Suddenly it begins to rain. The door opens for Chung-suk, and he sees the girl on the other side as Seonhwa heads to the crime scene at the tunnel. Hae-to notices Seonhwa examining the scene. Hae-to approaches him as he is leaving and requests to check the bag, but Seonhwa swiftly flees. When the detective catches up to him, they start fighting and fall to the side of the road. When Seonhwa drops his map and flees for his life, Chung-suk converses with the girl named A-ran and the shaman's residence before departing. While on his way, he runs across a girl on the side street who gives him an odd look. The girl's cheek gradually tears open, revealing a demonic eye beneath. The wound closes instantly, and the girl smiles menacingly before turning away. At this point, Chung-suk flees. That was scary as hell. The scene then changes to the police station, where Hae-to and Dong-jin discuss every scenario. Suddenly, the map appears in front of his eyes, and he is reminded of the paper that Seonhwa left. Dong-jin offers Hae-to a talisman he received from the virgin shaman in the meantime, as they immediately intend to obtain the map and proceed. Seonhwa decides to leave Chung-suk after hearing the entire scenario from him explained to her. Seonhwa admits that he's going to kill the virgin shaman, despite Chung-so's complaints. He concludes by leaving in agony, and Chung-suk chases after him. Hae-to begs Dong-jin to leave during all of this, so that he might go to the address shown on the map. As a result, he strolls around the streets, while Seonhwa sprints to find the shaman. Chung-suk arrives to the residence first, and promotes a run to leave the area amid all the turmoil. Dong-jin calls Hae-to and informs her that the virgin shaman is actually a member of the meditation group. When Seonhwa breaks into the shaman's home and discovers a woman bound up, he's about to kill her when Hae-to jumps on him, and they both reignite their fight. Hae-to then asks for the address to the shaman's location. The camera then pans to Seonhwa. Sadly, the demon girl shows up and reports that the last stepping stone, the shaman, has escaped. The following scene shows Chung-suk fleeing with A-ran while Seonhwa prepares with his axe and prayer beads and pursues the evil female. He suddenly finds himself surrounded by disparaging voices, but he keeps moving forward. Dong-jin drives to the area during this time and arrives there when he meets the girl and Seonhwa. Seonhwa charges at the demon, but it overpowers him and tries to strangle him. The The girl hides behind Dongjin and fakes fear, but eventually takes over his body, as the corpse of the girl decomposes. Songhua leaves the area as the police arrive at the site though. On the 7th day, Chung Sok and A-ran leave their house to go to the police station, where they purchase 2 bus tickets to Guangzhou. Songhua races to the port in a taxi as well, but the driver informs him that he must wait 3 hours because the last bus just left. In addition, Ha Zheng comes next to him and informs him that he has passed his title next to him, and that he must now serve as the guard of the Sarira casket while he is at the station, where the scroll that commands him to proceed to Buksan is written. Songhua is confused by this information, but he decides he must safeguard the Black Eye and immediately boards the bus towards Buksan. In the meantime, Heito obtains CCTV footage of Dongjin's vehicle and they start looking for him. The demonic Dongjin, on the other hand, also makes an appearance at the Buksan temple and makes his way to Ha Zheng's room. Back in the city, Heito looks into the crime scene from last night and goes inside the Virgin Shaman's home. Meanwhile, Chung Sok and A-ran walk to Buksan and head towards a shed. In the midst of all this, Songhua arrives at the mountain and enters the shed to discover Chung Sok sitting alone. Chung Sok immediately looks around in shock. Just then, we see that Heito has discovered the real Virgin Shaman, who reveals that A-ran is actually a ghost who was mistreated throughout her childhood. The anthropologist saved her life, but when his research was rejected, he became enraged and put an end to it. A-ran offered herself as a sacrifice. It is also revealed that Chung Sok traveled the entire distance alone. He came to the end of his voyage alone. A-ran was not with him. Additionally, the shaman makes it clear that everyone in the meditation group are the stepping stones, and the demon has slain every one of them. She now attempts to stop it by killing herself, but Hato prevents her. Thereafter, she recognizes and claims that it was him who dispelled the monster, and instructs him to go to Buksan. As Songhua and Chung Sok are preparing to meet the demon, the scene switches to Buksan. Songhua writes the enchantments on papers and fastens the papers to a group of trees as he binds the strings around them. Then he starts a huge fire in the middle and describes the terrible results if the evil forces unite. As the demon draws near the heart of the flames and Songhua ties himself up, Heito arrives and the situation worsens. Chung Sok is concealed by a tree. Songhua had intended to use himself as bait for Chung Sok to steal the Sarira coffin and stop the demon. As the demon approaches Songhua, he reveals that Chung Sok, not Songhua, is the real guard and is in fact the Ha Zheng's successor. Songhua had intended to use himself as bait so that Chung Sok could steal the Sarira casket and stop the demon. Because he is useless, the devil provides him with a gun so he can shoot himself. When the demon gives A-ran the order to find Chung Sok, she appears out of thin air with a chain around her ankle and begins to hypnotize him, as he finds the casket and is about to turn away. Songhua keeps an eye on him from a distance, which prompts him to shoot the demon instead. The demon suddenly becomes enraged, shouts, and his face suddenly sprouts several eyes. Additionally, Dongjin makes his way out of the temple. During the chaos, Dongjin loses his life. Chung Sok has been identified as the current demon, and he kills Heito by impaling him in a branch of a tree with one attack. During the detective's death, Chung Sok departs. Songhua holds Chung Sok's face in his dying moments, and the youthful Zhang Han materializes in front of him. However, he becomes distraught and tries to strangle the child before stopping himself. The demon appears to be victorious, but it turns out that a symbol has been imprinted on his face, freeing Chung Sok from the devil's influence. Sadly, in the midst of the tears, Songhua develops a red eye, and Chung Sok ends him by driving the axe through his forehead. In the post-credits scene, we see Chung Sok as he returns to the Indian-Pakistan border to bury the Sarira casket where the red eye was sealed. He encounters the spirit of A-ran with her leg chained to the ground. He stretched his hand towards her and frees her from the bondage. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. Please let us know in the comments what you thought of this movie and what you would like to see next.